and thank you for watching The Righteous Kitchen, a cooking and baking blog found at www.therighteouskitchen.blogspot.com. I am working with pumpkins today. Now, I grew this in my garden and I'm pretty happy. I only got a few. These are sugar pumpkins, and I like to puree the pumpkins. Now, there's several varieties of pumpkins that you can puree that are edible, but if you're growing pumpkins, this sugar pumpkin pie variety is not too big. It doesn't take over as much garden space as, say, a Cinderella pumpkin, which are huge. And these are easier to work with. You can get them in your oven, a few pumpkins at a time. So they're practical. And they're edible. They're the standard pumpkin pie variety. All right, so I want to show you an easy way to cut this in half. And I'm using the same technique that I showed you to cut a spaghetti squash. So I have the pumpkin here, and I'm just going to go around a horizontal cut. I'm using a bread knife or a serrated knife, and I'm just pressing into it. What I'm doing is just making a guideline, something to follow for me to cut this pumpkin in half. All right, let me get my glasses on so I can see right where the ends meet up. All right, so we went around horizontally and just scored with a serrated knife. Now you're going to want to use a very sharp paring knife. Pick a point on the line and just sink your paring knife right into that line. And then you're going to want to stabilize it really good with one hand, and then keeping this in there all the way. You're going to just rock it and go right around the line. Try to follow that line. You could even set it flat. I don't like the knife ever pointing towards me. So let's see if I put it in there flat and then point the knife opposite of me. Now that's a little bit awkward. So I'm going to just go around. For me, this works. Right here, just you want to make sure that you have this knife in the bottom, and then another good thing, this is the perfect size for you to handle. You can get your hand around it and stabilize it. So just take your time. All right, here we go. There we go. Nice cut on that. And then what I like to do is get these seeds out. So I've saved the seeds. I want to be able to plant next year. So I want to save the seeds. Let me go grab a spoon real quick. Okay, I'm using a grapefruit spoon. It has like a little serrated type of an edge to get in there for cutting. It's really nice to come in here and scrape. You don't have to do a wonderful job of this. Doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get all the strings out at this point. But like I said, I do want to reclaim these seeds so that I could plant them. So I'm just getting all this out of here. And there's a blob right in the center, so I'm going to take my knife and just kind of cut that, loosen it out. Okay, now I'll take a large spoon and kind of go in there. Okay, this doesn't have to be perfect. We can get the rest of these strings out once it's finished baking. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the remaining pumpkins. Now what you do with this string is separate the string. So why buy seeds that are sometimes hard to find? And they only give you a small amount of seeds. So here we have plenty of seeds just off of one pumpkin. Just you want all this string out of here because when you're drying the seeds, you don't want to draw gnats. All right, so we have all the strings. I'm just going to go ahead and discard that. Then I'm going to rinse these. Okay, once I have the seeds rinsed and strained, I take a plastic bowl and I just line it with a couple of pieces of paper towel. Now you could let these dry outside or inside. Just spread them out. And then sometimes if I'm in a hurry and I can't label what it is, I will take a little piece of the skin, and so now I know that's pumpkin, and I'll just put it in there while this is drying. So save your pumpkin seeds, plant them, and then you'll have your own pumpkins to enjoy. All right, so that's that. Let me finish the rest of these pumpkins, and then I'll come back and show you how to prep them for the oven. Okay, so now what I want to do is just pop this stem out. I'm just going to cut and press down on it. If it doesn't want to go down, just take a hammer. Pop it right out. Okay. So I have one more. Sometimes they'll just pop out without giving you too much of a problem. There we go. That one was a little bit dried, so it just popped right out. I actually prefer that because now there's no hole in the top. Okay, so these are all prepped. And I have a baking tray here. I have a half-sheet sized baking tray that I use. If you don't have the half-sheet, they're really practical. It's basically like having two 9x13 trays. So you're doubling your efforts here. So I'm just putting a layer of parchment down. so I don't have as much work to clean up this tray. And then you just want to set everything center side down. And look at that. You can get 3 nice sized pumpkins right on this baking tray. I am going to bake these in a 375-degree oven until they're fork tender. Okay, off to the oven. I'll be back and show you what they look like when they finish baking. Okay, these pumpkins have been baking at 350 for 1 hour. And see how the fork is taking a little bit of effort to get in there? We're gonna bake these longer. Now this one here is a lot softer. See how that goes in? Right here it's still firm. The rest of them are still firm. But this is kind of what you're going for right here. You want it really soft. Now these strings, you can come in here with a spoon and just kind of get the strings out. But you want to be able to scoop in here like that. That's when you'll know it's done, where you can just get in here and scoop everything away from the skin. So this one here is done. The others I'm going to bake longer. But when they're soft, you want to go ahead and just get them separated from the skin. And I'll grab a bowl real quick. You just want to get all that pumpkin scooped right out while it's nice and warm. You could tear it. Just get all that pumpkin. Let me look at the other ones. Yeah, see, this isn't as tender as the other. I'm gonna bake these till they do just like the other one, till they get really soft and cave in, and I can just easily scoop out the pumpkin. So these are going back. And I did earlier say I had the oven at 375. It's actually at 350. You could bake these at 375 and have a shorter bake time. So between 350 and 375, since I had the oven at 350, I'm just going to go ahead and resume. So we have an hour, about an hour or so, probably about an hour and 15 minutes on these. But just keep checking until they're soft and they mush in a little. All right, so these are going to go back to the oven until they soften up some more. All right, these have been baking for 2 hours at 350 degrees. Now, that first one took 1 hour. These took 2 hours. But you can see they're really soft now. So it's just gonna, depend. It takes as long as it takes. Okay? Really nice and soft. All right. So while they're warm, just continue on like we did before, getting all of the pumpkin out. You want to scrape the sides really good and just get all the pumpkin out. So I'm going to do that and put it all in a bowl. Then I'll come back and we'll start the puree part of this. Okay? Now you could steam these or boil them, but I prefer to just roast them. They don't get as watery. So that's nice. Sometimes if it gets too watery, you have to strain them. Use a colander and put a cheesecloth in there and get all that water out. You don't want them too soupy. But these look good. They're nice and on the dry side. All right. So I'm not going to need to strain these, so that's one less step to worry about. Okay, let me move this out of the way. And we'll start pureeing. Okay, to puree these, you could use a blender, but what I use is a colander sieve attachment for my KitchenAid. It's got this metal perforated disc, and this beater spins and presses the food like a food mill. So it presses it through there nice and smooth, and it collects into the mixing bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and start this on low. And I am just going to spoon in the puree and let that do all the work. It saves me from having to do the straining. Also, if you don't have a blender, you could just press this through a strainer. You could just scoop it into a strainer over a bowl and press it through there to get any lumps out of there. And then to keep this going, I just use my rubber spatula and just make sure that everything is being processed through there. Now if you have some filling still in there, it's going to separate that out for you. All right, let's see what we've got here. All right, what I do to finish this is I just get the rest of that puree off of this beater. Get that underneath there. And then I take the spatula and get all the puree off the sides. And then I just finish pressing what's remaining. I just press it right through there. Okay, that's pretty good. So you can see the skins that were in there. There's a seed that was left in there. You take this off. I want to hold this down, this metal plate down, and then I'll come over here and scrape all this from the bottom. All right. All right, so here is our smooth pumpkin puree. Okay, to store this, I just use the cheap zipper baggies. And I'm going to use a cup to help me hold the baggie open so I don't make a mess. All right, so I've got 4 baggies ready to fill. And what I do is scoop okay, so I have a 1 cup measurement. I'm just going to spoon that right into each baggie. You could even weigh these at that point. So, if you want to make it a little bit faster, after you know the weight of one, okay, with this container and everything, this is 1 pound, 7 ounces. So, since I know that measurement, I could just scoop it in here. And when I get to 1 pound and 7 ounces, okay, we're just finishing up. Okay, that made 8 cups of pumpkin puree, and I used 3 sugar pumpkins, or pie pumpkins. So 3 pie pumpkins made 8 cups of puree. It's really nice, smooth. It's just like canned pumpkin, but this is straight pumpkin, no spices. So I have that portion, and I am going to go ahead and put these in a food saver bag. So I'm going to put pumpkin puree on my bag, and then today's date, so that I know. And then I'm going to put 1 cup each. So I know what's in the bag when I made it and how much is in each portion. So, let's see how we can get these in here. You can squish them up to make them fit. The baggies were just to help with the portion sizes. All right, so I've got 8 bags in here, and I am going to use my food saver. Okay, what's nice about this model of food saver is I don't have to freeze these 1 cup portions before I bag them. I can just bag them right away, so it's a nice time saver. So I'm going to put the bag in this channel, and I want everything smooth. I don't want any creases on here. I just want everything to lay flat. I'm going to draw the air up, and then I could stop it at any time. I don't want this to suck all the air out and unzip these cheapy baggies that I used. So I'm going to draw the air out. You have to lock it into place. Okay, so I'm going to draw the air out, and then I'm going to stop it at which point that I want it to seal. So this red light, it's sealing. I just brought it to where all the air is out, but it's not squishing things too bad. And there it is. Here is my pumpkin puree, ready for the freezer. I'll just find a spot and lay it flat. So there it is. Just use these in your custards, your pies, breads, and things like that. Pumpkin puree.